Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Dreams of Yesterday. Dreams of Yesterday was designed by Heather O'Neill with art from Beth Sobel and is being published by Weird Giraffe Games. Dreams of Yesterday serves as a pocket-friendly follow-on to Dreams of Tomorrow. Today. It's a sequel, but it's not really a sequel, so it's a prequel. So the safest thing to say is it's a quel. That was awful. Let's ignore that and let me show you how the game works. Okay, so these are the components in Dreams of Yesterday. And let me just say up front that this is a prototype of the game, and the design on these cards and even this lovely plasticky clear box might also be changing. So don't fall in love with it because it's prone to change. And then you wouldn't have changed, but it changed, but you love it. And now it's moved on, but you haven't. But it's a whole thing. Anyway, I believe there are 27 cards in the game, and I don't have a breakdown on how many cards are what, but let me just kind of give you a description of how the cards work. The top row is comprised of resources. There are 3 different types of resources. The trophy is prestige, the money is money, and the books are knowledge. So prestige, money, knowledge. And as you can see, some of the cards have 2 different resources, some have 2 of the same, and then some just have a single resource. If you look in the lower right corner of the resource cards, you will see an image, and that image is to indicate something that is on the other side. So if you look here, it's probably very hard to see. There's a little triceratops, a triceratops fossil that looks much like this one right here. So the other side of this card. So you get a piece of information that's visible on the other side. You can see now there's the money symbol right there because on the other side there is money. Keep in mind, you can't see what the cost for something is should it be an artifact that can be purchased. It just gives you some information, but not all. In the middle row here, you have standard artifacts, and the artifacts come in 3 different flavors. You have Astonishing Antiquities, and this card has 1 artifact. It also has an ability right here. Its cost is in the upper right corner, and then this little image here is a glimpse of what's on the opposite side of the card. So this particular standard artifact will cost 1 knowledge. There's no change in this game, so if you were to spend this card on it, you would not get a single knowledge card back. You just pour out all of your knowledge. This standard artifact in the middle has an Astonishing Antiquity and a Cultural Curiosity. This one also has a permanent resource. I'll go over those in a second. And it will cost 2 trophies here. So 2 prestige trophies would be required in order to purchase this standard artifact. All the artifacts do have cards. They're the only one there. On the flip side of this one is a single Cultural Curiosity. And then this one over here has a Bygone Bones artifact and a Cultural Curiosity artifact. Costs 2 knowledge, has an ability, and the other side of this is going to be a money resource as indicated in the lower right corner. Coming down to the bottom row, these are other types of artifacts, but these are rare artifacts. So the 2 on the sides are urns. Urns are how you finish an exhibit. Once again, I will explain what that means. Urns are essentially a way to finish an exhibit, meaning you cannot add any more cards to it. An exhibit that you laid out, you can have up to 2 exhibits, and it ends an exhibit. You can't change it, can't add anything else, but it also provides some bonus points. They also have a cost. So the cost of this one, I think, is 3 of the same resource. This one happens to be money and 2 knowledge for this one. And in the lower left corner are just points you get just for having that urn in an exhibit. This one happens to be 1 point. This one happens to be 3. You can also get a glimpse of what's on the other side of the card. And right here, in this area here, is a different scoring condition. So for that exhibit, for every Bygone's Bones, you get an additional point. And for that exhibit, if you have 1 of each type of standard artifact, you would get 6 points. And here in the middle, we have another rare artifact, which is called Diverse Discoveries. These are essentially wilds. So for the set collection scoring portion of the game, A diverse discovery can take the place of an astonishing antiquity, a cultural curiosity, or a bygone's bones. As you can see, it has the colors of all the different types of standard artifacts. So this is going to take the place of them for scoring. But it cannot be used for the urns. So this urn gives you an extra point for every bygone's bones. You cannot use this in place. This cannot help you score the urn. You have to actually have the real bygone's bones. You can see what all the different abilities are. You have a flip a histories card, meaning you can flip a card that's in the rondel. You'll see that in a moment. Move an additional space. You can inherit a resource. You can turn resources wild, so all money can now be used as something else. This one lets you arrange your exhibits, which can be very, very useful. And then the last one is you can spend an additional resource to buy any card in the histories. So for the setup, each player would get a resource card with 2 resources on it, a double resource card. Each player would also get a standard artifact with a single standard artifact on it. The rondel would consist of 5 cards for a solo or 2-player game, and the rondel would have 7 cards for a 3-player game. There's always going to be an empty space for the starting player to begin. All the urn cards will be set to the side, and they'll be mixed in once the deck initially runs out. The rest of the cards will make up the deck that you will use to replenish the rondel whenever a card is selected on the player's turn. The starting player is the last player who traveled through time, went to a museum, or thought about dinosaurs a lot. A lot. It's capitalized in the rules. So let's say this is player 1. Player 1's artifact card gives them the ability to move an additional space here in the histories. This right here, the rondel, which goes clockwise, is called the histories. So normally a player can pick between the 2 cards that are in front of them going clockwise. So if player 1 is going to start here, and these 2 cards are what their options are. Every player, if they wish to move an additional space, let's say player 1 really wants this card right here, they'd have to spend an additional resource of any type to essentially get access to this card if they have enough resources to do so. Every player also can spend an additional resource to flip over any card in the histories. So what this power actually does is, this power, because it's visible, because your card's going to be coming out this way, or you can also tuck them underneath. Whatever ability is face up is the ability that is active. So right now, this player has the ability to move an additional space without spending a resource. So this could be purchased without spending anything else because of this ability. Player 2 has a cultural curiosity, and the ability on their card is they can flip over any card in the histories. As I mentioned, in the lower right corners of all the cards, you can get a glimpse as to what is on the opposite side. However, if it is a artifact, you can see what the artifact is, but you don't know how much it's going to cost. So, information there. So these 2 cards essentially can nullify some of the additional costs to perform actions outside the norm. I've talked enough. So player 1's going to start right here, and they have a choice between picking up this 2 money resource, or they can purchase this standard artifact. They're going to go ahead and they're going to spend this. So that's the discard pile, and they're going to bring this in. Now they have a choice. If they cover up, they can put it down this way, and then they've covered up the ability to move an additional space. Now they have the same move that player 2 has. They can flip over any card that happens to be in the histories. Or they could tuck it this way and maintain the ability that they want to use. Also, your resources typically go up here, and then your 2 exhibits are here. You have 2 rows of exhibits, no more than 2. And that is their turn. And they will replenish based on where they took the card. So they replenish here. Now, when you replenish, you have an option of flipping to whatever side you wish. Keeping in mind that, well, actually we'll go here, sorry. you always go further back, the furthest back space. The person who goes next is not necessarily getting this card because they'd be starting from here, not anywhere else. So I have a choice between flipping it over to this side or the resource side. Let's say I'm gonna put it on this side with the Akaka. All right, so player 2 is gonna start here, and they can either just take the 2 money resource, or they can go ahead and purchase this standard artifact. However, they do have the ability, because of this, before they do anything else, to use their power. So their power allows them to flip over any card in the histories. So let's say I flip this over. This would be great because this would be another cultural curiosity, which would allow me to start the set. I probably should have mentioned more of the set collection aspect. If you look in this area here, you'll see a small little chart, which is an indicator of how you would score points based on the different types of artifacts you have in your 2 exhibits. So they're definitely incentivized to try to get multiple of the same artifact in an exhibit. However, they don't have the cost for it, unfortunately. So planning for the future, player 2 is just going to take this, and now these are their resources. So player 1 is going to start from here, and these are their 2 options. This is not really an option because they don't have any resources to spend. So they're just going to take this one. Back over to player 2. Player 2 has a decent amount of resources here. They could really purchase either one of these. Just a hypothetical. So let's say player 2 didn't have any resources. They're starting from here, and the next 2 cards happen to be artifacts, and they can't afford any. What happened then is that player would look in the deck, and the first resource card that they see, they would take, sit in front of them, and then whatever cards they pass to get to that resource. So, wow. So they would take this one, and all the cards they pass to get to that resource will go into the discard, and they will then be able to flip over one of these 2 cards. And then the next player would start from here, ideally with something different. So that's what happens if the next 2 cards in the rondel happen to be artifacts and you don't have any resources to buy them. Or I think if you don't want to as well. I think it's if you can't buy them and if you don't want to. You would search, find a resource, and then flip over one of the 2 cards in front of you. But that's not the case here. So like I said, there's no change. So they're going to spend that because this cultural curiosity costs a single prestige. And they're going to bring this over here. It has the exact same ability, so it doesn't really matter where they put it. It essentially would delete them in the same spot they're in before, but now they have 2 of the same. And then they would put a card where they left off. So they put that there, and it will go back over to player 1. That is the flow of the game. Once the deck runs out the first time, then you shuffle in all of the urn cards. I mentioned the urns are ways to end an exhibit. So an exhibit ends once you put an urn on it. There's no ability. This exhibit will be done. You can't do anything. You can't add anything here. It's just finished. That's how the game will come to an end. If a single player finishes off both of their exhibits, an urn for each one, you'd finish the round and the game would end. Or if the histories cannot be repopulated, the game would end. So in terms of endgame scoring, let's say one of the players' exhibits at the end of the game was having 3 of the Bygone's bones artifacts, and then an urn to cap it off. You can still score for the set collection even without the urn. So were they to have this, 3 of the same exhibit, the same artifact in the exhibit, excuse me, would be worth 6 points. So this would be worth 6 points at the end of the game. And then let's say they were able to put an urn on the end of it. There would be additional 3 points for the urn. That would be 9, and 1 point for every Bygone's bones. So that would be 12 points. This one exhibit would be worth 12 points, which is kind of a lot. So, but then again, if you look at the chart that should be up in the upper left corner, if you happen to have 6 of the same artifact in an exhibit, that's worth 21 points by itself, even without an urn. And yeah, let's say you had all of those. And keeping in mind, if you were to do something like this, is really having them be consecutive. So this right here, this would be one bygones bones, one of the astonishing antiquities. This will be a set of 3. You couldn't count this as a set of 4 bygones bones because they're all not next to each other. So these would count by themselves, worth 1 point each. This would count for 6, but then this would allow you to count all of the bygones bones in the entire exhibit. So you want to get similar artifacts next to each other to maximize your score. If this was here, I do believe this will count as a single bygones bones. This will be 2 astonishing antiquities, and I think this will count for 3 bygones bones a set. I do think that the diverse discoveries allows you to break up a set and then double count it. I think. If I'm wrong, you'll see a caption that says I'm wrong. Anyway, I've said a whole lot of words, and that is Dreams of Yesterday. That was Dreams of Yesterday. There should be a link in the description below where you can find out more information about how you can get a copy of Dreams of Yesterday. Well, not today, but depending on when you're watching this, it could be today. But how you can find out how you can get a copy of Dreams of Yesterday. Very fun, very pocket friendly. Dreams of Yesterday. Link in the description. We're Giraffe Games. Heather O'Neill. We're Giraffe Games. Dreams of Yesterday. Back it and support it yesterday. Anyway, that's going to do it for me. I'm Aaron from GameEnthus.com. Thank you for watching. Take care, stay safe, and be blessed.